Greetings everyone and welcome to a Sanyo Betamax party. I have 3 Betamax machines right here. I have restored all of these to working condition and it was really easy to do. So if you enjoy working on VCRs, this is probably a video you're going to want to watch. Now as far as the construction of these machines go, they're decent. They're not great. I would say Sony is better. But these are super easy to work on and cheap to get parts for. And I think you'll enjoy just seeing the differences in the mechanics of these machines and how easy it is to repair them. So that's what we're going to cover today. I'll briefly go over the features of each particular VCR because there are differences here. And then we'll open up the hoods, see what's making them tick on the inside, and just how easy it is to repair these and get them going. These Sanyo machines are cheap and plentiful, and those who have Sonys think they have gold, and you're going to spend a lot more for a Sony machine versus a Sanyo. So just a little FYI there. Let's get started by going over the features. Our first model is going to be your basic model from that time period. This is a model number VCR 4010, and it does have a date code of 85, so this may have been a late release. But again, this one's basic. This is like, I don't care about stereo, I don't care about anything fancy, just give me the basics. That's what this machine would have been. You have your audio and video outs here, a remote input here for a wired remote. We have our coaxial in and out, and our UHF input and output there for your aerial antenna or your little bow tie antenna that sits atop of your rabbit ears. Checking out the front of the unit, you can see that you have a Varactor tuner here with a bunch of presets. The presets are behind this door, so you would go through and manually tune in all the channels that are local to you and your area, and then you could select UHF, VHF high, or VHF low using this little tool. Those settings are displayed up here, and then there were little inserts that you could put in, and you could replace these numbers like this. So there would have been a sheet included with the VCR that would have given you all these numbers that you could pop in there on your own. So primitive, right? What the heck? So let's see if I can get this back in there. There it is. All right, so there's your tuner settings here. I love how this clock display is nice and healthy. It's nice, clear, and doesn't look like it's fading. However, this particular clock kind of works when it wants to, which is kind of strange. So like you plug it in, the clock doesn't come on, and then like 10 minutes later, voila, there's the clock. So anyway, that's just this particular machine. And then we have a clock, record day on, off. This is for all of your clock settings and timer settings. And then you have an hour, minute, clock set here. We have a timer on and off switch here. We have our beta tape speeds, which are beta 2 and beta 3. Record, pause, stop, fast forward, play, rewind, power, eject, and our VCR TV selector here. That particular button works if you're using coaxial. So if it's on TV, it bypasses the machine and sends the aerial antenna signal directly through the VCR or cable if you happen to have that. Otherwise, if you have it on VCR, the VCR's output becomes the keying signal to your television. Now we take a step up. This is the upgrade. This one's the more additional options vehicle that you would have chose from at that time. It's like, I want air conditioning and I want power windows. Okay, so those kind of options related to cars, kind of related to VCRs back then. If you wanted more options, you spent a little more. So you would have spent a little more on this guy. This is the VCR 7200. This particular model has beta hi-fi. So hi-fi stereo sound, which is AFM audio. So you get a really high fidelity, super Hanazuki sound system included in this guy. So here's your jack panel on the back. We have our UHF in and out. We have our stereo RCA jacks in and out, and our video composite, video in and video out. We have a remote pause jack here. Over here on the bottom left, we have VHF in and out, and your channel selector for 3 or 4, which is the channel you would have chosen on the TV if you wanted to broadcast the TV's output through the tuner of your television. Looking at the front of this beautiful machine, this one was available in both silver and black that year. So if you couldn't decide what particular color your stereo system and television were going to be, you could go with either gray or black. I found the gray one to be a little bit cheaper than the black one, so that's the one I picked up. Major cosmetic flaw is this door. Yeah, the hinges break very easily. So when this arrived, it was taped on, and I used lighter fluid to get all of the tape that was all coating over here, with all the gum coating over here, cleaned all that off and made it look nice and new again. Again, this one has a varactor tuner as well, and instead of having the adjustments on the front, they're right here on the top, and the little tool is also still there. We covered tuners on the last VCR, so we won't get into that. But again, the cool part about this one is it's a little bit more digital, and you can't replace these particular thingies in here. Oh yeah, you can. Never mind. Here they are. Pull this guy out. Yeah, you get the idea. So this pulls out here and pushes back in right there. There we go. Not as easy to get out as the other one. This will stay on once it snaps into place, but taking it off, it does that. So inside that panel, we have our tracking control. We have tape speed, beta 2 and 3. External audio in, off, on, or FM. So at certain times, broadcasts would have been in stereo through an FM carrier, through an actual FM radio. So you'd hook your FM tuner up to your VCR and record the stereo soundtrack and then watch the TV signal through your television or through your local broadcaster. So kind of a cooperative effort that happened at that time before stereo television came along. We have our clock set, program, start, stop, program clear, channel, minimum, or minute, hour, and day. We also have remote on and off. We have all clear and timer off and on right there. Go ahead and set that back on there. Turn the power back on. Moving to the left of our channel selection here, we have dual VU meters for the hi-fi stereo audio. So we have left and right. We also have regular potentiometers there to control the audio input. If you wanted to use this as an audio recorder, you could have done so. And then underneath those sliders is audio record, auto, or manual. So if you didn't want to have to mess with these, you could just put it on auto and the machine would take care of those volume controls for you. Our record mode is beta, hi-fi, stereo, or mono. That switch is here, and notice when I put it in mono, the beta hi-fi light goes off. Audio out is stereo, left, right, or mono. So perhaps you might have had a tape that would have had two different languages on it, and they would put English on the left and Spanish on the right. You could switch between those. I don't see any other purpose for that, quite honestly. Mono would have just given you the linear audio that's on the top end of the tape. Here we are with our controls. We have record, stop, pause, fast forward, play, and rewind. Some indicators up above those: tape speed, do, timer, cassette in indicator. I believe this unit was infrared remote capable, and I think that's what that little window there is for. Here's our power, and here is our eject. That will cover this model. Let's move on to the next one. The last one here is our Sanyo model VCR 7250. And this particular unit has an exciting feature that the other two don't have, and that is Super Beta. And again, you can look up Super Beta and see what the differences are, but they are minimal. Just a slight increase in picture quality. So, jack-wise, we have a remote pause button, once again, video out and in, RCA audio in and out. Over here, we have our antenna in and out, channel 3 and 4 selector, and our UHF in and out right there. Once again, with this Sanyo Super Beta machine, Super Beta Hi-Fi machine, we end up with some other cool features and options that are not available on the other two. So the first one is the tuner section, which happens to be a digital tuner. Very cool. So no tuning knobs that you have to set within here. Although in here, though, you do have some features to fine tune and tune in those channels, but then they are stored digitally. You have a automatic frequency control switch here and a preset switch here, and then you have your VHF high and low as well as the UHF selector there. Our timer settings are right here next to that, and then we have our beta 2 and beta 3 selector there with our clock settings. Our beta hi-fi indicator right here, and just the regular dashboard of indicators here. Tape in, pause, record. This is probably like a do setting, like if the machine has gotten too much humidity in it, that could be what that star is for. Play, beta 2, beta 3, VCR, fast forward, rewind, play. All that stuff is right there. I really do like this kind of piano key design here in the front. It's a little bit different than our last two. It's still stackable, but then you would have this little bass part sticking out the front. And then we have a OBR button here, which I believe has to do with like timer recording. I believe. I don't know what OBR stands for. Maybe some of you guys do. Let's go over to the left side and kind of focus in a bit. So just like our last machine, we have this audio out section here. It gives us normal, left and right, and left plus R, which is stereo, hi-fi. And then next to that we have a record level, which we can do auto or manual. If we decide to go manual, there is one control right above that. It happens to hold both left and right in its clutches. There's no separate controls for each. Then we have beta hi-fi section here. We can do video audio, audio only, or off. So if you don't want to record beta hi-fi, you could. And if you wanted to use this as a audio tape deck, you could as well. We have our inputs here for tuner, external, or simulcast, which was like the FM setting on our last machine. Over to the left of that, we have our controls, rewind, play, fast forward, pause, and stop. And don't forget record. Above that, we have record balance, we have tracking, we have super beta, off, on, or edit. Then we have power, VCR TV, and eject. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a first here on the Databits channel, comparing the insides of 3 VCRs at once. I have not done this before, but I needed a challenge, and working on these was actually fun. So here's the first one. This is our manual VCR's insides. This is the beta hi-fi VCR's insides. And then we have the beta, super beta actually, hi-fi stereo VCR's insides. And here are the 3 side by side. Now, if you've never worked on a VCR before, a couple things to note. I actually work on these with them plugged in. And the thing is that the power section is usually on the top right corner of all of these, especially. As long as you don't touch anything up in that area, you should be fine. You're not going to get shocked by anything else because everything else is low voltage after the power supply. All of these units have this same metal shield. It's on the top of the loading bay for the tape. And this can be removed on the gray models. You can remove this and work on what's underneath. Now on the Super Beta machine, you can still remove that, but you can't operate it with that particular shield off. So that's the main difference there as far as how they're set up. It was super nice of Sanyo to build these machines with repair in mind. Let me show you what I mean. So this particular circuit board here, we're going to remove these screws. And this circuit board kind of acts as like the hood of a car. So once you remove a few screws, this, pull it up from the back, lifts up. Got some wires in the way here. So that lifts up and out of the way. And you can either tape this up or prop it up somehow, this circuit board here that's now off the screen. Prop that sucker up, and now you can work on the mechanics underneath. And quite honestly, if you haven't noticed about me, I'm more of a VCR mechanic than I am an electrician. But the cool thing is, even though these VCRs are over 40 years old or approaching 40 years old, they don't require any caps to be replaced. So typically, the problems that you're going to experience with these are mechanical and dirt and the need for lubrication. And lubrication, I would say, is a minimal. If something is struggling, you might want to lubricate it very lightly, but otherwise, lubrication is not really a necessity. So once again, we have metal cages here, a metal cover that needs to be removed if we're going to get to what's underneath, and then we could see all the cool stuff. So let's go ahead and remove this. There are 3 screws on this particular one. And again, we're only going to do this on one of the models because they're virtually identical on all of them. Third screw over here. Some of these particular items will remove, this shield will remove just by lifting it. Others of them have clamps or clips in the back that must be pressed on in order to pull that off. That's the case with this one. Our first shield is off. Let's go ahead and remove this second one. There are 4 screws holding it together with what are known as machine screws. Really helpful to have a magnetic tip on your screwdriver. That will keep you from dropping the screws down into the machine. 2 more on this side. And 1 more. What's really fun is when you end up having screws that are stripped out. That's really a joy. I don't think I had that this particular model, but in any case, all right. Now we can see what's going on inside this guy. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. All right, so here is your take-up spindle, your supply spindle, your take-up spindle, and then this joy down here is where we're going to replace a bunch of tires. And there's 2 down here, I think, that need to go. And then there's a little belt underneath there as well. So there's 3 things on all these machines that you're going to have to replace. The loading belt, which is located over here on this side. The tape loading belt. So this is the cartridge loader, the tape loader that winds the tape onto all of this stuff back here. And then 2 tires, and then a little belt right there. For a close-up look of this fun, let's take a look here. So there's the belt, and there's the 2 tires, both a part of this particular pulley system here. This happens to do the forwarding and rewinding, as well as take up for playback, etc. This particular machine needed a new pinch roller as well. The pinch roller was just turned into, I don't know, like petrified wood or something. It wasn't rubber anymore, that's for sure. So I replaced that. I actually found that on eBay, that exact replacement part on eBay. Going back to the back here, there's the close-up of that belt that will have to be replaced. And then moving back to the front here, there is the cartridge loading piece there. That belt will also have to go on all 3. On the hi-fi models, this belt is a little bit tough. As you can see there's that copper piece that's sticking out there in the middle there, and it's very, very close to the pulley that you're going to wrap that on. So I had to really just kind of squeeze the belt in between those and get that in there, but I was able to do it. Now, as far as belts go, where do you get belts? Well, you can go out to eBay and just do a search for cassette deck or cassette belts, and you can buy a kit that just contains a bunch of random size belts, and then pick you out one that fits. For the tires, let me show you what I bought for that. This is my 480 piece 18 size metric NBR O-ring kit. Now, I actually use some of these O-rings as belts in these VCRs. Some of the larger belts, well, you won't be able to use these for, but I'll put a link down in the description if you want to purchase one of these. It's pretty cool. So I think I actually ended up buying some tires as well. So these square ones aren't going to come with this kit, but you can get the round ones there. And I believe I used this one as a belt, and I used this particular size here, which is the 13 by 3, as the actual tires that went on the unit. So sorry for the shakiness there, but again, you can do all of that very easily and save some money on your repairs. And so your mission, should you decide to accept it, is to replace the rollers and belts in this machine, and perhaps a pinch roller, and then you'll be able to take your tape, put it into the VCR like this, turn it on first. Tape pops in. Let's watch a little tape action here. Here's a little fast forward action there for you. Look at that. Look how solid it is. Runs like brand new again. Let's do some rewind action as well. I'll hit stop. Now, what I do like about this machine is it does not pull the tape around the tape head until you're ready to play. So that prevents wear on your head and wear on your tape. So there's only one little I don't know, a guide that comes out and helps the tape move left and right. But other than that, the tape remains in the cartridge until you're ready to play it. I think that's a nice feature. Again, we're looking at the mono version of these 3 VCRs. There we go. Now let's go ahead and hit play. And let's look at that again, close up. It's also good to have a tape like this one. This is a TDK tape, blank tape, that reveals both reels, so you can kind of see what's going on there. That's a very helpful visual as you're working on these machines. Notice that a lot of the original Betamax tapes don't have a window for both reels. In fact, they look like this. There's just one. So then what's happening over here is kind of a mystery. Again, on the 2 gray models that we've discussed here, you can have this shield off and work on it, which is nice. The third one you can't. So make sure that shield is back on before you attempt to insert the tape or eject the tape. Here's a quick view of loading a cassette into the Beta Hi-Fi model. These do require you to hit the power button before you can insert a tape. And again, with that circuit board in place, there sure isn't a lot to see. Then we'll press stop. And then we'll hit eject. Here's loading a tape in our Super Beta machine. And pressing play. And I just saw a little tiny bug crawling across there. Make sure you debug your VCRs. I think I got him. Debug your VCRs before you ship them. Now let's go ahead and hit eject. And there we go.